All the babies are there buried in this area right here, right down the front right here.
We stand today on the grounds of the Shelby County Cemetery, where many babies in this county are laid to rest. We are placed in the shadows of 402 markers. Those 402 markers put us in remembrance of the number of infants who died in Shelby County in 2006 and 2007 before their first birthday, 402.
Each marker in the ground out here represents grief, represents someone whose heart aches today, real people suffering real hurt.
Memphis has the highest infant mortality rate among the nation's largest cities. And even more startlingly, babies who are born to African American mothers die at 3 times the rate of babies born to white mothers in this county. These are not just differences, these are disparities. Disparities are differences that ought not be.
In the United States, infant mortality is such a huge issue. The World Health Organization ranks the U.S. as the 29th in the world. 29th in the world. The promise of ending infant mortality begins in Shelby County. We feel your weight, and we're here with you.
Let's meet and greet right now Sister Tonya Lee.
Pastor Williams and Mrs. Williams. To all of you here this morning, as Pastor Williams said, I have been the spokesperson for the Healthy Baby Begins With You campaign to raise awareness about the high rates of infant mortality in this country, and in particular in the African American community. When the Office of Minority Health called me and told me about the high rates of infant mortality in this country, and in particular in the African American community, I had no idea what a kind of crisis we were in terms of infant mortality in this country. I did not realize that we were at third world levels. I did not know that we were ranked 29th in the world. And when they called, and I did my research, and I got the information and the education about it, I had to get involved. We have been able to bring infant mortality rates down in this country. The problem is that there remains this disparity between the white community and the black community. And we know this is complicated. This isn't all about just individual responsibility. We know this is complicated. We have to hold our government accountable. We have to hold our doctors accountable, our insurance and companies accountable. Absolutely. We have to really hold them accountable, but we also have to hold ourselves accountable as well.
When we heard that our city was #1 at this statistic, we were shocked. We were encouraged, both of us were encouraged to just get up and do something.
I believe the greatest thing we can do is to just inform on a day-to-day basis, everyone we meet, inform them that these babies don't have to die, that we can do something about this.
This is not simply an issue of poverty. All African American women, regardless of your educational background, regardless of your economic background, are at risk of losing their child before their first birthday.
The Healthy Baby Begins With You campaign started in 2007, and we initially were just going into cities that had this disparity, going there for one day after talking to the health department and saying, hey, would you like to have a health fair? And they said yes. And so we'd come in and we'd bring Tonya and we'd speak and we'd give out materials.
I started out as a young person. I was, like you all, just a regular kid out here, Spike was just a regular kid, Barack Obama, Michelle Obama, regular people. They had a lot to do, and believe me, having a baby will slow that down. You know, one of you in here, who knows? And this is real, who knows? One of you may discover the cure for cancer in here. You may come up with something that may save my life one day or the life of my child. So I really don't want you to get bogged down with having to take care of a child before you can get to the opportunity, the chance to do what it is that you were here destined to do. Now, I know what you guys are, 9th and 10th grade? Okay, so I'd like to think that none of you in this room are having sex yet. I'd really like to think that. But I'm gonna be real, and I know that's probably not the case. Now, if you're doing that, if you're having sex, that means that you could potentially have a baby. If you do have a baby before your time, you need to be as healthy as you possibly can.
We've had initiatives in the past, but we haven't really truly looked at it from this perspective. This particular infant mortality campaign really looks at a number of different things. Getting people in communities more aware about health disparities in infant mortality in African American communities, but also bringing in youth to assure that youth can talk to youth about how to be more healthy.
What's up, Carver High School? I said, what's up, Carver High? I can get lives than that, right?
What we did was we put together a peer education program.
Good morning, my name is Joellen Jarrett.
And we brought all these students to the campus of Howard University, and we gave them a 2-day training of peer education, basically preconception peer education.
I went to DC over the summer. It really opened up my eyes because I didn't even know anything about infant mortality. I never really thought to, really research it or really to look it up and find out any information on it. But once I found out, it just really impacted my life. Wow, I can actually, start now to really help the health of my child.
All right, so I know y'all probably thinking, what does this got to do with y'all? I mean, y'all 9th grade, 10th grade students in high school. So what does all this information have to do with y'all? Can anybody answer that for me?
Because one day, the girls be pregnant.
All right, one day the girls will be pregnant.
It's going to determine your future.
Well, that's exactly right. What you do today affects the future you're going to have tomorrow.
I have a little sister that's pregnant with twins, and around the same time that I found out about infant mortality, I was just thinking about my future niece and nephew who's actually due in a couple weeks. And that was at the beginning part of a pregnancy, and I was like, wait, the people that's having, this infant mortality, they look like my sister, you know what I'm saying? So that really what made me get really involved in it.
Basically, infant mortality is a death of an infant before he or she turns 1 year old. Does anybody know of a family member or friend who actually lost a baby before they reached the age of 1? Anybody?
I have a little brother. His name is Noah Pollard. And, and he died November 29th. That was a month after he was born.
We left the baby with a babysitter, and the babysitter was frustrated because the baby was crying, and she set the baby on her stomach, and the baby died because she wasn't able to breathe.
I had a little sister. Her name was Katina. She was born May 8th, 1998. When she was born, she weighed 12.5 ounces, and after 5 months, she died.
A picture of her right here. Congratulations on the birth of Katina. Nickname A Miracle. To God be all the honor and glory for Katina's life. These are just the dates and times of when she was on and off the ventilator. It took her about 3 to 5 months before she just started really feeding. My mom, on August 1st, she heard Katina cry for the first time. And she changed Katina's diaper and held her for the first time. She always went to the doctor. In 3 months, she used over $30,000 in expenses. At 4:25 a.m., October 6, 1998, my mom received a phone call that Katina was having difficulties. She was having trouble with her saturations and her heartbeat rate was dropping. She arrived at the hospital at 4:50 a.m., but Katina had already passed away. Katina touched so many people. She gave us a real sense of hope and joy, and that's really why they called her the America Baby. this is a story that needs to be told. Other people need to know why maybe my mom wasn't on a healthy diet, or maybe she wasn't getting enough exercise. So that's past, but for the future, I believe, like, you know, people need to be informed. Mm-hmm.
Brown versus the Topeka Board of Education. 70% of the bus patrons were black women. So you've got 70% of your customers not riding the buses. This is 1960s, it's called lunch counter sit-ins. This was all about college kids. Wherever there was a college campus, there was a sit-in of some kind going on. Libraries, movie theaters, zoos. In Memphis, Tennessee, there was only one day black folks go to the zoo. It was Tuesday. Libraries sometimes didn't allow black people at all. But we had these 4 young brothers out of North Carolina who went to a Woolworths one day, sat down, were denied service. Within 2 weeks, we had over 12 other cities with kids sitting down doing the same thing. These 2 photographs showing the police dogs and the water cannons being turned on the student protesters. This is room 306. He was sharing this room with Dr. Ralph Abernathy. And about a little before 6, he stepped out onto the balcony with a Aretha's position, and then the bullet rang out. The shot rang out at that moment. He was officially pronounced dead an hour later at a local Memphis hospital.
One thing I notice is, looking back in history, from slavery up until now, is there's a lot of unity that has been lost over the years. And I think one of the ways that we can unify our communities is once we receive that education that people like Dr. Martin Luther King and so forth made a way for us to have, that we can go back into these communities that have suffered from the other side of it and give back and communicate and educate and encourage.
I don't know much about African American history. I'm a nursing student, so it was great to see the struggles that led up to what we're fighting for right now. Infant mortality is good because we're kind of asking the question, why does it happen in the first place? And being at this museum showed me like all the struggles and the consequential stresses that African Americans have to face, and that's part of the reason why infant mortality is a problem.
This campaign has been wonderful. For the first time, we have youth stepping up, taking a forward role.
Are y'all excited? Yeah. No. Come on now. Y'all can do better than that. Are we ready? Yeah. Are we excited? Yeah. So, everybody got their team together. We're going to go on down to the community, hold the people, learn as well as educate. Okay? Y'all have fun.
We're here from the Office of Minority Health. We wanted to give out information about infant mortality and preconception health.
You're just giving out some information on how you can stay healthy.
I'm very passionate about health, and I feel like there's this ignorance in our community that just needs to be, like, the void needs to be filled. Like, we need to learn more about ourselves, our male counterparts, as well as helping our community. I always take the chance to tell someone, like, did you know you're supposed to do this, or did you do that today? Like, I always share the knowledge with everyone around.
And what that means is getting our men and women healthy before they even consider having children. So taking care of things like diabetes and hypertension.
For me, before I started this project, I didn't know a lot about infant mortality. So just think, if they could reach out to people who could reach out to me, and then I could reach out to other people, just think about how much awareness you can create. Just through, say, the last 6 months that I've been working on this project, I've learned so much.
Do you have children? I have 3, but they all have passed their first birthday. Okay. That's wonderful. That's a good thing.
Also going to be a health event on Saturday, and there's going to be free health screenings and giveaways too. So an event for the whole family.
Okay, thank you guys.
No problem. Have a great day.
How you doing, Tamika?
Does anyone in here have a friend or know someone who lost a child before their first birthday? You want to tell us about that a little?
That was my child, January 22nd.
And how old was your child?
17 minutes.
Did they give you any health factors or reasons why?
I couldn't figure it out.
But what we want you to know that there is hope, and what you can do is encourage your girlfriend or your wife to start getting healthy now.
Preconception health is important for men as well. Though we are not the carriers of our babies, we play very active roles. The energy we have, the environments we create, decide whether our babies are going to be healthy or not.
Something else that I wanted to say as well, we're sharing this information with you. We want you to go out into your communities and share this same information. It takes all of us to get this message out, and that's the most important thing.
I think President Barack Obama's campaign has illustrated what people can do at a grassroots level, how powerful social marketing is if we can just brand the idea of these are the behaviors that bring about a healthy lifestyle or healthy birth outcomes. I feel like we as a people have the power to bring about some really effective change, some really widespread change. Otherwise we wouldn't be doing this stuff if we didn't think that it was going to help somebody. So we like to think that, we're going to make some Barack Obama-like change.
Yeah, positive energy is contagious.
Right. Yeah. I just encourage you all, as I know they have, to spread the word, absorb what they're telling you and spread the word so that we build our strong communities.
Remember, a healthy baby begins with you.
Indeed.
My groups. Okay.
And most of the time you see them in these, we call them incubators, and this is the breathing machine. Over the years, this unit has cared for tens of thousands of newborns and has been credited with saving thousands of newborn lives. This baby is now almost 2 weeks old. 2 weeks old, so, and actually I might add, it's a little bigger size, I know, but she looks tiny. You can go, look.
I can see her face.
Her name is Tatiana Candace Miles. She was 1 pound, 13 ounces.
Huge baby, every day.
I sit here every day, and honestly, if I could just take her pain away, I would, This is my second preemie child. My first child was 29 weeks. When she was born, she weighed 2 pounds. But I thank the Lord she overcame that. She going in the military on the 23rd of this month. So it's just hurting when you see somebody you love that you really truly can't do nothing for them, I'm here 24/7. I sleep in the waiting room, up all night smoking cigarettes and drinking coffee. But, I just want to make sure she all right, And, until you actually really have a child like this on your own, you don't even begin to understand. So,
In the United States, we have pockets like Memphis and most of the inner cities where the infant mortality, it's almost like we are in a different world. In the United States, we want to give equal opportunity to every citizen in our country. And I see that we are failing to keep that promise.
So can you usually identify the causes, or is it more just caring for the baby now and not really acknowledging?
No. We do worry about what led to the situation. And we do counsel the mom on those issues. When you talk about, high-risk family, high-risk behavior, we should not be judgmental. We need to be sympathetic. We need to try to understand the mom's, condition, try to help her.
And how do we get other doctors to have that same sort of compassion? Because from what I'm hearing in my travels, that even when sometimes women have access, it's the treatment that they receive from the doctor who may assume certain things about her because she's African American or because she, comes from a high-risk environment.
Well, I think we as a nation has to have a lot more growing up to do on that one.
Is that something that's taught? Is there in med school?
I think we do teach, to our medical students, empathy, compassion, but, some things.
Right.
How do you teach compassion?
Right, exactly.
What do you think are some of the most successful interventions for keeping a teenage mom or, whatever type of mother from coming back within a year or 2 years in a situation?
I think that's $1 million question. I think I always say this. The first time mom comes, 15-year-old pregnant, well, she made a mistake. She didn't know what the heck she was doing. But then when she comes back second time in a year, we all failed. When I was growing up in a tiny, tiny village in India, everybody knew everybody else. I still vividly remember my mom and dad used to go to the fields to work, and me and my young sister would be left alone in the village. But we never felt we were alone because the whole village was there around us to take care of us.
It was 6 months when I went into labor.
Yeah, Kendall. And of course, they really weren't looking for him to survive. So it was like a wait and see type thing. And to see him now, born at 2 pounds, 0.6 ounces, and now he's almost 5 pounds and on his way home. I must be honest, actually we were kind of reluctant to come here because we were not educated on preemies or what this facility offered. To see him now, look at him, just beautiful. Look at those eyes.
What does this mean? What is going on? Well, one of the things that my work proceeded to do was if you have college-educated African-American women who you presume have access to health care, who have the educational exposure about the importance of taking care of their health as you do in this room, who avail themselves to those services, what is going on that you have college-educated African-American women who have preterm and low birth weight? It's quite an enigma. It's something that's not expected, and it's something that we still don't have much explanation for. We know that poverty is a major factor for poor health. There's a gradient decline in health as individuals have lower socioeconomic status. That's well established. But the outcome around college-educated individuals really challenges that. So I became part of that group of scientists around the country who began to look at what were those factors outside of healthcare that were contributing to the disproportionately high rate of preterm delivery and low birth weight. We began that process, interestingly, talking to Golden Girls. Inevitably, all the women talked about stress. They identified stress as a major risk factor for African-American women being sick and tired, and certainly as a major contributor to African-American college-educated women, particularly having a high incidence of low birth weight preterm deliveries. Stress, then, is one of those kind of difficult things. We all have it. Every time I tell women, I say, I do research on stress, they say, well, come, I'll be part of your sample. And so we all understand it. We know it's part of our daily lives. And so what are the emotional responses to stress? Anger, anxiety, and depression, which triggers physiological reactions. It affects the vascular system, the immune system, the hormonal system. And so therefore, the stresses of being black, the stresses of being female, the stresses of being poor, all of those things collide to be major risk factors for our health and well-being.
I'm going to speak specifically about naming and addressing the impacts of racism on health. Why racism? Why racism in a health context? Because if we're really going to eliminate racial disparities in health, we need to examine the fundamental causes of those disparities. We think that in the United States, we do everything the best, but our health statistics would show that we are, 34th in terms of infant mortality or general life expectancy. I mean, we're not doing that well. I think that the infant mortality piece, a lot of people would think it's really in the healthcare arena. And certainly the neonatal intensive care units and all of that are important. But what we really need to do is prevent the babies from being born small and early. And so that's about how people are living. It's about opportunity, real educational opportunities and job opportunities so that young girls don't feel at 15, oh, well, might as well have a baby. It's about taking the toxins out of our neighborhoods. It's about, this obesity epidemic is so profound, and that's not because people just want to overeat. I mean, some people cannot access fresh fruits and vegetables in their neighborhood. So we have to deal with the conditions, what some people call the social determinants of health, that surround us, the context in which we are growing up our young women and young men who are going to have the next generation so that they grow up healthy and strong and feeling valued. And I really celebrate this effort that the Office of Minority Health has engaged in and the partnership now with Tennessee and Arkansas and Mississippi about our children and cherishing one another. It's really not just noticing the fact of disparities, but making it an issue and mobilizing people to address it, and that is what we need to do. So I am encouraged. I hope that I've inspired some thinking about how to address these health disparities, especially in birth outcomes, but for all of our things. And I encourage all of us to be actively anti-racist together. Thank you.
So we talked about who has a stake. Say if prenatal care is the way we're going to go, who makes money off of prenatal care? Say if we got every woman in prenatal care, who's going to make money off of that? And we talked to them to fund us to get every woman in prenatal care.
We agree that most lay people don't really know what infant mortality is. And to describe that and to sort of put a face to it would be a helpful way to begin to address the issue and generate a discussion about it.
In Memphis, we all come together and we meet and we talk about infant mortality in particular and how we are to collaborate with what each agency is doing. Put our hands to what you're doing and you put your hands to what we're doing, and we all get involved together.
We've heard so much about the various initiatives and programs. Thank you so much for coming to Memphis and giving us what in the medical profession would be known as a sentinel event, something that just kind of draws real attention. And we pledge to you that this momentum will go on once you've gone on to other places. Thank you all, and may God bless.
Personally, thank Mayor Wharton and his entire team and the people of Memphis. You have a wonderful place here.
It takes resolve. That anything we want to do in this country, when we really grasp it, when we really see how serious it is, we get it done. The question should not be, can you really do this? It ought to be that morally, how can you go to bed at night calling yourself the world's nation that sits on a hill, that's a beacon that sets the course for others to follow, when you won't even reach everybody who ought to be reached and say, take care of that baby?
I also must thank our preconception peer educators, our college students who have come down here.
The Healthy Baby campaign really shaped the way that I think now about infant mortality, preconception health. When we met and did our training in October, you know, I was living the usual college lifestyle, going to school, working, grabbing a bite to eat from fast food places. And then from actually going through the preconception health training, it made me think about, well, how can I tell others to be healthy and I'm not living a healthy life? So afterwards, I started taking multivitamins every day that contain folic acid. I now have a personal trainer. I've been losing weight. It makes it more obtainable. People look at you like, oh, okay, you can do it, so I can do it too. And that's basically what I want to do, is try to make people feel hopeful.
As you heard, a healthy baby really does begin with you. A healthy baby begins with all of us. And men, we really need you in this. We need you to support us, to love us, to also pamper us, especially when we're having a baby. You know, so help us in this. And Spike will be here in a few minutes to talk to men about what that means. And I'm going to stick my head in there and hear what he has to say, because I like to know what he has to say about this issue as well.
Well, first of all, thank you guys for coming out for this event. I think this is the start of something, hopefully something big, and we can carry this momentum into the future. You know, we just wanted to speak to the men to talk about some of the things we can do as men to be able to support one, and also to be able to be advocates for what's happening in our own community.
Today, amongst the African American family, out of every 10 families, 7 are headed by an African American woman. Out of every 10 black families, only 3 fathers are home. That's just an astronomical number.
African American women have to play a great role in this if this thing is going to turn around. They have to. There's no getting around it.
I just think these things that we need to talk about, grasp hold, be bold. I mean, go out there, man, put it on the line. They're controversial things. People want to tiptoe around them, but it gets people to talking.
Come to me, filling my heart.
The issues are embedded, deeply embedded in race and income in this county, and the social determinants of health that are critical in all diseases are even more critical and relevant in terms of infant mortality. But the approaches to this, to change the rates, to move the needle, have got to be beyond public health. They've got to involve education. They've got to involve the economy and employment. They've got to involve the revitalization and the renaissance, the rebirth of communities like South Memphis.
About us campus in the area
It's gonna take love and time, strong voice and a strong mind.
We need to understand that racism is alive and well. It's continuing to have very bad impacts on all of us. It's sapping the nation of this strength. And so we as a nation need to join arms and decide that we will not let this continue to sicken our nation anymore.
It's time. Teach your children, love the children, help the children.
As I talk with people across the country, whether it's a community group or individuals within a tight-knit community, there's this whole perception that health disparities or infant mortality in particular is just kind of the way of life. Well, it just kind of happens, and I know this person or that person's had it. We want to be able to change that whole notion. It doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, we got quite a few things in here. This box is a little heavier than I thought it would be. Ladies first.
My name is Joellen Jerry Jamison, and I'm a graduate of Lane College. And this week, we are in Memphis to raise awareness about infant mortality. And we heard that you were pregnant and that you're going to have a boy. And on behalf of my preconception peer educators and the Office of Minority Health, we want to present you with a couple of gifts. Oh, they're so cute. I'll sit right here.
Most of us are not physicians or clinicians, and we can't say, okay, I saved this life, or I changed this person's life, or I'm responsible for this. But we know that we're doing something that when we see these results 3, 5, 10, 20 years down the road, we'll know that we were part of the inception of this project.
I want to introduce myself. I'm Yolanda Spence. I'm from Memphis. Hi. And really what we want to let you know is that it's important to us that your child not only makes his or her first birthday, but also to let you know that you have a community that's supporting you as well. That is, you know, we're worried about what happens to your baby as well, so that you don't feel alone.
Oh, that's so nice. Thank you.